What's up, everybody? Welcome back again to the Words of Life podcast with Adam and Kevin. And we are talking about Samson, mighty Samson. But the more we look at Samson, the more less impressed we are about him. And really, it's indicative of the moral degrade of society. Last week, we spoke about the slow decay that we kind of see throughout the book of Judges, and the story of Samson is a really good indicator of that evidence. But before we jump into that, we're going to say hello to Kevin, and we'll jump right in.
Yeah, how's it going, Adam?
It is good. I am worn out. Had a long weekend. I sing and now direct again a chorus, a barbershop chorus. And we had our convention this weekend, competition convention,
Sure.
where lots of choruses and lots of quartets gather in one place and sing a bunch of songs together, and the choruses and quartets compete and all that. And my chorus, I just joined them a few months ago as co-director, and we were able to increase our standings by 10 percentile points. It's
Nice.
a judging scale. So yeah, we got the most improved chorus award. So very exciting, lots of fun, but it's a long weekend.
Sure.
And then today, I don't work a physical job every day. Not that I'm not capable of it, but it is a little unusual. But we had a big project at the church building, had to move a wall. So I had demo and construction all day. Been going since dawn. And we're going again. We're doing
That's
some
right.
more. So yeah, it's I'm a little tired, and I will confess to everybody, I'll probably be leaning on Kevin a little bit more and in this podcast just because I'm a little tired. So how about you? Anything new?
Yeah, I mean, the big news, I guess, is that we just found out that our foster baby will be going to dad next Sunday permanently. So
Oh wow.
this is our last week with her, and then Sunday we'll take her to church so everybody can say goodbye, and then we will drive
No
her over to
kidding.
dad on the west side. Yep.
How did that come about?
I mean, the scheduled date-ish was court in April. But, as the visits have just progressed along, done overnights and weekends, the 3-day visit the other day, DCS just said, hey, we're going to put in motion to transfer over before court. He seems like he's ready to go. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, as parents, we should want to raise our children. So
Right.
that's a good thing. Hopefully he'll do an admirable job.
Yep.
So, well, that's good. I know that can be a very big I'm assuming it's a big roller coaster of emotions for you guys.
Oh, yeah. It will be next Sunday. We'll see how
Yeah.
Melissa's doing after that, especially.
Yeah. Because, for a while there, it was looking as if she might end up with you guys permanently.
Yeah, I mean, it was questionable up front.
Yeah.
It's been pretty clear dad's going to get her back for about the last 4 or 5 months. Like that's been
okay.
pretty clear that was going to happen, right? But at
Yeah.
first, it was a little bit questionable for sure.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we'll have had her for about 10 months by the time she goes back to that.
It's a long time. Well, you guys do such good work. We love and appreciate you guys for that. So I'm sure you'll keep it up.
Oh yeah, I'll take a little break to go to kids' graduation and stuff like that, and then get
Yeah.
back unless probably June, July. So, yep.
Good
Little break.
deal. All right. Well, let's catch up really quick with Samson.
Yep.
We're going to introduce to Samson another kind of birth that God had a lot of work in. He prophesied to Samson's mom that, hey, you're going to have a baby, and his name. Did God tell him which to name them? I can't remember. We do know that God said, hey, you're gonna. These are the rules.
Yeah.
That I'm laying forth, and I need you to not eat anything to do with the grape fruit of the vine.
No unclean thing, no grapes.
And yeah,
don't cut his hair.
Don't cut his hair. And this is basically the Nazirite vow, which we talked about in Numbers chapter 6, and it spells out all of the pertinent details, which include not having anything to do with things that are dead.
Yeah, and so
dead
that's
bodies, dead carcasses.
That's going to be important here
things.
today.
Not necessarily the process of making something dead. Obviously, it's okay for Samson to do that.
Yeah, it seems interesting, right? Like, I don't know how
right?
you don't come in contact with a dead body if you actually did the killing, but maybe there's a loophole there. I don't know, but yeah, today we're definitely going to see this is a direct
A
violation
brief
of the vow.
window between
Yeah,
them being alive and a carcass.
and how fast I
so,
move off of it, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe so. But yeah, what we're going to start with today is a clear violation of that. Because remember, when we sort of ended last time, he had found this woman who is a Philistine woman that he wants to take as a wife. And we saw this phrase that is interesting the way it gets used here, that it was right. She was right in his eyes, right? It even says that she's right in my eyes, which we've talked about numerous times already in this book. And his parents are against it, but he's seeking, it says, a reason against the Philistines, right? He's looking for an opportunity against them. So he's going to take one of their women, and that's going to be the start, we'll see, of a protracted escalation of conflict here. But on the way down there in Timnah, a lion comes up and he kills the lion, right? And then the story sort of moves on.
The lion.
Yeah, he tears it apart like a young goat.
He rips it apart like a young goat.
Right, as one does, right? And so he kills with his bare hands. The lion carcass is there. He goes to see his future wife, talks to her, likes it, says, yep, let's make this deal happen. And so that's sort of where we had left off, right? And now we're going to pick up. They're going back down now for the wedding, right? So they would have gone down, seen the woman, probably bartered with her father or whatever about, bride price and those kinds of things, and then arranged for the wedding ceremony to happen at a later date. And so that kind of takes us up to chapter 14, verse 8, which is where he then heads back down to take his wife, and that will start the narrative really rolling here.
Something I never actually even considered. So we're going to start in, this is Judges chapter 14. We're going to pick it up around verse 8. And right out of the gates, I just observed something that I've never even considered.
Yeah.
It says that after some days, he returned to take her. So it's time to get married.
Yep.
And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but I mean, how much of a boy move is that, right?
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
I killed that lion. I left it lying there. I wonder if it's still there, right?
I got to go see what it looks like now,
right.
you know? But I never put that together, that, he actually specifically
turns aside to go check it out.
To go see the carcass of this lion, check it out,
kill.
I guess. And what he finds there is, he says, behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion and honey.
Yeah.
So bees had infested the carcass of this lion and had made their hive there, and there was honey. So he scraped it out, this honey, inside the carcass of a dead lion. He scraped the honey out with his hands and went on eating it as he went. Now, obviously, there was no candy stores back then. There was no, 7-Elevens or, local drugstores or whatever to go grab yourself a quick treat. So you find honey out in the wild, you're probably going to take it, even if it's inside the carcass of a lion, I suppose, right?
Sure.
As one does, right?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting there, right, that it says, and I think that's the point, right? He turned aside to go check out the dead. He intended fully to go approach a dead body.
Yeah.
Right, in a violation of the Nazirite vow. And so he goes to do that. It's clear that this is intent. And then when he gets there, he sort of makes it worse, right? Like maybe he was just going to look, and really that might have been at the edge of pushing it, right? But then he goes up, and it's very clear, puts his hands, right, like in the dead animal. And so there's no doubt at this point. And then he eats. So even if that's not right, there's this honey has been in contact with the dead animal, so it's unclean, right? And so then he eats from this honey, and it says he gives it to his parents, and they eat it as well, and he doesn't tell them where it's from, right? So that's kind of interesting, because I think the point that the author's trying to make there is that he knows, right, that this is some sort of a violation, and he's keeping it from his parents. Hey, I found this honey. Here, have some honey, right? He didn't tell them I got it out of this dead animal, right? Because that would have been unclean for them to eat as well. But it also, they would have raised the question of, wait a minute, why did you approach a dead body, right? You're not supposed to do that, right? So I think it's clear he knows that this is against the vow, and that's the purpose. So I think the author is trying to tell us this idea, like we're saying, Samson is not a man of great character, right? It's showing this decline, as we've said, of the moral standards. The vow is made, it's not really kept, right? I mean, he doesn't cut his hair until later when he lets it get shaved off, right? And so you see that playing out sort of in his life here when he does this. And the other thing that's interesting is it's going to be important, right? The whole story is also just to set up the next narrative about this riddle he's going to tell and how that's going to lead to the conflict that's happening there. So
Absolutely. So there they are eating their honey on their way down to marry his future wife. And the tradition was that the young man, the bridegroom, would host a big party, a feast for all of his compatriots and his friends and whatever. So he holds his feast, and as soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him.
Yeah.
So they say, hey, you gotta, he needs a bunch of friends, I guess.
He needs people to be here, right? To be his entourage
party,
at the wedding feast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this goes on for 7 days, right? Like, this is not just like we would say like a reception. No, this is a week-long feast where they're going to hang out, they're going to celebrate, they're going to eat. I assume that he doesn't drink anything, right? Though that would be happening there as well. If he's following it, the narrative doesn't tell us what you'd think it would have if it was important. So, so he puts this riddle to these guys who are his new friends, right? Just now, and it's basically like a bet, right? I'm going to tell you this riddle, and if you get it right, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. So I'll get each of you a new suit, basically, right? But if you don't, then you will each give me a garment. So then it's 30 changes of clothes either way. Either Samson's getting 30, or each of them is getting 1 for 30 total, right? And he puts forth this riddle to them. Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. That's the riddle, right? And you're supposed to say, what am I, basically, right? What's going on there? And so he puts this riddle to him, and we obviously know the answer to it because we've just seen the story, right? So it's clear to us. But remember, at this point, he hasn't told his parents. They didn't know he even killed the lion. They don't know where the honey's come from. No one knows, right? So he thinks he's got a pretty foolproof riddle here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a little bit of, The Hobbit, and Bilbo's finally goes, "What do I have in my pocket?" Right? Haha! You can. It's not a real riddle. You can never guess it because it's so esoteric. And that's kind of what this is. You'll never guess this. This isn't a standing riddle people would know about. It's just, hey, I know something you don't know, right? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so he thinks this is foolproof. Haha! I'm going to win this bet. I'm getting 30 changes of clothes, right? And they can't.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but you sparked an interest in that when Bilbo says that in the movie, the way it's portrayed, I really like that.
Yeah.
Right? He's like an under the breath.
It's like he reaches. Oh, hey, what is this? Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, what do I have in my pocket?
Yeah, and he thinks it's a riddle. Yeah.
And Gollum says,
"What?
Right. What? How can I answer that?" Anyway, so they went for 3 days of this 7-day feast.
Can't figure it out.
And they can't figure it out. And so what do they do? They're like, listen, there's only one person that can probably wiggle the answer out of him, and that's his new wife, right? So they say, hey, entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, or else.
Right. We're going to burn you and your father's house to the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
So it wasn't just, hey, do this quick favor for us. So like, they threatened her with death and her father's house, right? And so, because they're like, have you invited us here to impoverish us?
Right. We're these 30 guys you invited to the feast, and now immediately we're going to be all out. Right,
we're all going to be in debt.
Is this just what we were here for? Right, like this. And remember, they know who Samson is, that he's not a Philistine. They know that he's an Israelite, right? And so they're going to think like, hey, what's this game you're playing here, right? You brought this foreigner here, and you're going to make us owe him these things, and you've invited us to the wedding just to do this to us, right? And so, she goes and she weeps before and weeps for, and, Samson eventually breaks down. At the beginning, he says, no, I haven't told my parents about this, but eventually he breaks down because she presses him hard. And that's that's foreshadowing as well, right? Because you're going to see this pattern that Samson has. Samson has this problem with women, right? We see it here. We're going to see it with a prostitute. We're going to see it with Delilah. Like, we sometimes just think of Delilah, but there are multiple women in Samson's life that are a problem to and a snare to him.
Yep.
And this idea of them sort of wearing him down with their, oh, you don't love me, you hate me kind of a thing. He gives
Well,
into that.
and so is that indicative of the type of women he was choosing?
Yeah, because
I
it
mean,
could
who
be.
knows, right?
Yeah, he's not making
Um,
great choices, right? As far as who he's going with. Now, this woman, to her, I don't know, to her credit, but it's life or death for her, right? She's like,
yeah.
right. So she presses him and presses him. But yeah, he marries these women, and it's clear every time that his criteria is that they look good, right? He's chasing after his carnal desires. That's what he's doing when he takes these women on. She looks good to me. A prostitute, Delilah, she sees she's beautiful, right? This is his criteria. He's not going to them because they're godly women per se, right? And that's why he's chosen them to be his wives and his lovers and these kinds of things that he does. And so yeah, they get the answer out of her. And so then on the last day, right, they answer his riddle. What is sweeter than honey and what's stronger than a lion, right? And so, look, Samson has to know. I mean, he's clear he does, but he knows. Look, you know that answer. You didn't figure it out. You got it from my wife. I told her. She's the only one who knows. You wouldn't have just figured this out on your own. This is not. Again, this is a surefire win for him, right? And so the fact that they've got an answer, he knows. And his statement there is a little rough. If you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have found out my riddle. The idea being that, hey, I have my own cow and you plowed with this cow, but effectively what he's saying is you've used my wife, right? Who's my heifer, and she's done the work for you, and you found out my riddle.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I mean, obviously in English and in our society, that sounds like
pretty
amazingly
derogatory,
harsh, derogatory, correlation. He's
statement towards
comparing his wife
yeah.
to a work cow or
yeah.
an oxen or something.
Yeah. Yeah, to any of our listeners, I would not recommend using that phrase about your wife for any sort of reason.
Yeah, just like we don't recommend the pickup lines from the Song of Solomon.
Yes.
We also do not use do not recommend
calling your wife a heifer.
A heifer. I mean,
yes.
Rule number one.
Rule number one,
sure, right?
That's 20 plus years of marriage. There, speaking right.
Yeah.
50 plus between the two of us. We've learned that lesson. So he does, though, pay up the bet, right? And so this is interesting because, remember, the reason he did all this in the first place, it says he's looking for an occasion or an opportunity against the Philistines, right? And now he's got what he wants, right? Okay, I have to pay these people these 30 changes of clothes. So instead of, does he even have that? Who knows, right? We've never given, I'm guessing no. They're being oppressed by the Philistines, right? So I don't assume there's a lot of wealth that they've got. But he goes and decides, all right, so I'm going to go to Ashkelon, this Philistine city, and he basically mugs and kills 30 guys and takes their stuff. And then he goes and he gives it back to those people who, okay, here's what I owe you. And then in a huff, he leaves and goes back to his parents' house without his wife, right? And so the gauntlet has been thrown down at this point. We've killed 30 Philistines. And, this is just going to, as we will say in chapter, this escalates quickly from here on out. But he's got his opportunity. He's got what he's looking for. Way to sort of have a beef with the Philistines.
Yeah.
And start this.
And I'm not sure exactly how long had passed, what goes on, but as he returns home without his wife, she's left there, obviously. And the interpretation, at least from her father, is that he has discarded her or
he doesn't want her. Yep.
left her behind.
Yep.
So Samson's wife, it says in verse 20, was given to his companion who had been his best man.
Yeah.
The number one representative standing by his side during the wedding feast and all that kind of stuff. And so on one hand, the father's looking out for his daughter.
Right.
Right. On the other hand, there's no indication that they pursued Samson to get him back as her husband, right? So
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of thing there, right? And
not good in any scenario.
no,
so.
I don't know what Philistine customs at this time are, right? But he figures, oh, well, she's bought and paid for, she's been, given off, so I'm going to give her to someone now who will take her, right? And again, it's curious that it's what does best man mean as opposed to our customs today? I'm not entirely sure, right? But
yeah, I'm not sure.
Is this the practice? Like, you're the second. If he doesn't want her, then you've agreed to take her, right? He effectively gives her away.
Godparent or
yeah,
something.
Right. Gives her away to him. And we'll see in the next chapter. The father, his father-in-law, says, "Look, I really thought you utterly hated her, right? Like, and that makes sense, right? Like, she betrayed you, right? This whole thing is, I mean, you called her a heifer, right? And said she betrayed me, and then storms off in a huff. What's the father to do, right?
Yeah.
So he honestly thinks, as far as I can tell from the text, that all right, well, if that guy's gone, and he gives her to somebody else, right? And some time is going to pass. We don't know how long. I'm going to guess it's less than a year, because it says after some days at the time of the wheat harvest, right? So I assume whenever that was to the wheat harvest, it's not 6 wheat harvests later, right? So it's several months, right? Go by, whatever
a
weeks.
season at best, or at earliest. So
yeah, and so he decides, all right, I'm gonna make up, right? And so in chapter 15, we see at the time of the days of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife with a young goat. So again, what is a young goat? I suspect he's going to make amends, right? Maybe he's going to give it to the father, or whatever. He's bringing it to kill it so they can have a nice meal. But it's the equivalent of bringing roses, maybe we would say, right? He goes down there with the young goat and says, I'm going to go into my wife into her chamber, right? But the father won't allow him to go in. And his reason, he says, like we just said a minute ago, I really thought you utterly hated her, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead, right? And Samson's response there is, all right, this time I will be innocent in regard to the Philistines when I do them harm. And so that's an interesting sort of statement. What he's saying there is, right, okay, these treacherous Philistines have given my wife to someone else, right? And so whatever I do, I'm not responsible for. I'm innocent because, they've given my wife to another man, which is curious because it sort of implies that he knew the last time when he went and killed 30 other dudes that he kills 30 guys who are effectively innocent, right, to get the clothes. And now he's like, but this time my hands are clean, right? This time that they started it, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I have justification.
I have justification, right? And so we have this pretty famous story of him going out and he catches all these foxes, right? He catches 300 foxes, ties their tails together.
Let's just start right there.
That's a lot of foxes.
Catching a fox.
Yeah.
A fox is hard. They're not called, they're
sly and
very
wily, these sorts of things for nothing.
Wily creatures, right? To catch a fox is a pretty. The dude got 300 foxes.
Yeah, so I don't know how long it takes him to do this, right? That's a lot of foxes. But he catches all these foxes and ties them together, puts a torch between them, and then turns them loose in the standing grain, right? And
so imagine 2 foxes, tail to tail,
between them, right?
Right, and between their tails is a torch,
right?
And so you imagine a fox running.
They're trying to get
2
whatever
foxes
it's
running.
Yeah.
Right?
Both trying to get away from the torch, yeah.
Yeah. And just sheer chaos, but their torches would be caught up into the,
into the
grain,
weeds
and into
the
thickets and into,
And that's his purpose, right? We see it's at the wheat harvest, right? So all the wheat is there. It's ready for harvest. It's dry. It's ready to go. And there's, in fact, some standing grain. There's some harvested grain already, it looks like. He turns them loose. It kills the stacked grain, the standing grain, and the olive orchards as well, burns all this down. So it causes widespread destruction in this area, right? And I don't know if this is where we get, Firefox gets its name, the browser, but, maybe so.
Maybe, yeah.
So he lets these things go, these firefoxes throughout the grain, and they burn everything up. Lots of economic loss. And so the Philistines in that area, right, are
as well as the olive orchards.
Yeah,
It wasn't just the wheat.
No, it burns everything, right?
Yeah.
Wheat's bad enough because you're going to lose a year's harvest,
right?
Which you can plant again next year.
All
if
your
you have
bread
seed.
and everything, yeah.
But you burn the orchards. Olives take a long time to grow and mature and fruit. Now those trees are gone, right? So that's years and years and years of investment. So they're very upset, right? Who's done this? And they say, look, it's Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, right? Remember that she's a woman from Timnah. So that's what that means there, right?
Yep.
This guy, because he gave his wife to somebody else, right, to his companion. And so they go up, and interestingly enough, right, they do the thing they threatened in the first place, right? They burn her, and they burn her father's house. They kill them all, right? And so, what she was trying to escape by getting the riddle, foreshadowing, right, comes for her anyway. And so again, Samson, he sees everything as justification for violence, right? Oh, well, now you killed my wife and my father-in-law, so now, right, I'm going to be avenged on you, right? Not taking the ownership of like, I burned everything down. It's you did this, so now whatever, right? And all of this, remember, is his purpose that he's set up at front, right? He's looking for occasion against the Philistines. So it's hard to know, how much of it is he flying off the handle, angry, irrational, and how much is it like, oh, now I can do what I want, right? Because he's looking for reasons to cause problems, right?
It is interesting that, like in verse 7, it says that, if this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you.
And then I'll quit.
And after that, I will quit.
Right.
That it'll be.
Then we'll be even, right? We'll be even. And so it says he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow. And then he went down to the cave of the rock of the cleft in Etam, right? So he's hiding out there. He does something. He kills some of them. Who knows what he does there? Strikes them with a great blow, unless the great blow is the burning of all their stuff. And then he goes and he's hiding out in the wilderness, right, if you will. And so the Philistines, right, they want revenge again, right? So it's just this eye for an eye, back and forth, revenge, escalation. They want revenge on him for apparently striking a great blow, right? So they broke his riddle. He kills some people. That leads to his wife being given. He goes down. He's mad, so he burns their stuff. They burn his wife, so then he strikes him with some great blow. So then they come and they're trying to get him. So they come up against Judah, right, the tribe of Judah, and they camp there and they make a raid. And they basically say, hey, we're coming to get Samson. If you give him over to us, then we'll leave you alone, right? We won't hurt you. We won't do whatever. Go get him for us. And so they do. These 3,000 men of Judah go down to get him, and they're saying, "Hey, the Philistines, they're rulers over us. What have you done? Why are you doing this? You're making our lives difficult, right? Everybody knows they're in charge. Stop being such a pain." And so he says, "Look, again, this is Samson's mentality throughout." In verse 11, as they did to me, so I have done to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's effectively the same thing you hear from children today. They started it, right?
Right.
So did he, kind of a mentality there, right? And so they said, hey, well, listen, we're giving you over to the Philistines, right? Because we got to do this ourselves. And Samson sort of clearly understands or knows a little bit of what's going on. And he says, okay, good. If you won't harm me, then go ahead and I'll surrender to you if you promise not to attack me or harm me yourselves. I've just turned over the Philistines. And I think what he's trying to do there is he's trying to spare his own people, right? If you're not going to harm me, if you try and kill me, I'm going to defend myself. But if you're just going to hand me over to them, that's good. That's fine, right? Bring me there bound up as a prisoner and hand me over to them. And so they do. They bind him up and they take him down there with these new ropes. And this is interesting because this idea of new ropes sort of will come up again later, right? It's like, oh, hey, that's a good thing to file away for later for himself. So they take him down there bound up, right? And in 14 it says, when they came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. And we get this phrase again, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. And the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that had caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands, right? Just snaps them like they're burnt up ropes. He just snaps them off. And, he still has nothing in his hand, right? But he finds, it says, a fresh jawbone of a donkey, right? So the jawbone lying on the side of the road there, whatever, from a donkey that had died. He picks it up. And
No. Hold on. This may be the first instance of the force being used. Because it says,
put out his hand and took it.
He put out his hand
and he took it.
And
sure.
took it.
Yeah. Just comes to him, right? Like his lightsaber.
Like his lightsaber.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, of course.
Sure.
It is kind of interesting to look at, like, you see a fresh jawbone and he just
puts out his hand, takes it. Yeah.
Takes it.
And And then he kills 1,000 people with this, right?
With a jawbone of a donkey.
With a donkey, right? Effectively a club, right, is what he's got. He's using a club to beat these men to death with. And then he I don't know, describes his victory as what can only be called some sort of like an ode or a psalm, effective little 2-verse song rhyme.
Is he like
a limerick he makes up there?
You can understand like how this might be dramatized,
sure,
in cinema, right?
yeah.
I mean, is he like standing on the corpses of 1,000 men?
Heaps upon heaps, right?
Heaps, right? I mean, who knows how it actually played out? But at the end of the day, he's standing and 1,000 dudes aren't.
Right.
And so he has this like, with the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey have I struck down 1,000 men,
Yeah, and then
it's like a pirate sea shanty or something.
Yeah, yes, and then he dramatically tosses the jawbone away, right? Like, and the name of the place is called Ramath Lehi, right?
Yeah.
The hill of the jawbone is the name of the place from that day forth, right? And so he does this thing. He strikes him down. He's gotten what he wants, right? This opportunity to strike a blow against the Philistines at this point, right? He's killed 1,030 men at least, right? 30 men. Then he burns a bunch of stuff. We don't know if anyone is killed in that, but he burns a bunch of stuff. Then he strikes a great blow against them, hip and thigh, whatever that means. And then he kills 1,000 here. And so he does all this. And then again, it's just Samson's such a weird character, right? After this great victory, he's immediately, right? Clearly he's been empowered by the Spirit of the Lord, right? This is clear. It's been clear from his birth, right? It's this interesting parallel about how his father had said, when they had offered the sacrifice and it burned up, and then the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame, right? He was like, oh my goodness, we've seen the Lord, we're going to die. And his wife says, listen, if he accepted our offering, he's not going to kill us. He's got plans for us, right? And Samson here, after he has his great victory and the Spirit of the Lord has rushed upon him mightily, right? He's thirsty, and so he cries out, right? Oh, you've granted me this great salvation, and now I will die of thirst, right? And fall in the hands of the uncircumcised. Lord, are you just going to let me die? I'm so thirsty, I'm going to die. He hasn't sort of learned that lesson from his mother of, look, God is not going to let you die of thirst after he's just wrought this great victory by your hand, right? And so, you're right. The whole thing reads very dramatic, right? Very dramatic. The Lord, God, says he splits open a hollow place, and then water comes out, and he's able to drink from there and survive, right? And again, so we get a new name of a place there, En Hakore, the spring of him who called, right? So I called on the Lord and he gave me the spring of water. And then it's interesting because this almost feels like where the story should end. Right? And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. So that's how many of these stories have gone, right? Great deliverance, and then a summary statement of, and then they judged this many years. Great deliverance, they judged this many years. Now, similar to the other stories that we've seen recently, the great deliverance happens, and then there's this afterword of the decline and failings of that judge, right? We've seen it with Jephthah, we've seen it with Gideon. We've seen these things play out, right? Here's the great deliverance, and here's another story about what happened afterwards that was bad. And that's what's going to happen here with Samson, right? The next chapters, which are some of the most famous chapters we think about, right? When we think about the story of Samson, we think about the lion, we think about the jawbone, but we think about Samson and Delilah, right? That's the story we think about. We think about him losing his hair and his eyes. We think about him tearing down the temple. That's the afterword. This is the decline of Samson and his failings after the great deliverance that he has wrought, right? That's what chapter 16 really is. It's this coda that we have on these other judges. It's just more famous.
Yeah. Well, I think because we don't have enough time to finish it properly, we're going to stop now. Plus, you have to leave soon, and I think that's a really good place for us to stop. But so what are our takeaways though before we wrap it up? Like from this middle chapter of the story of Samson, one of the things that I think about is that God, by God using people, even empowering people to do great things, doesn't necessarily mean that God is approving of all of their actions.
Yeah. And we see
Right.
that
So
story play out in a lot of places, not just here, right? Because we just saw
yes.
it here. We might think, okay, God must be happy with Samson. He keeps letting him do these things, right? He
Correct.
he delivers him. He gives him water. He saves him, right? And yet, we see this play out over and over again with nation states,
Yeah.
where he says, I'm going to bring this nation, I'm going to bring the Assyrians against you, Israel, and I'm going to use them to punish you. And then after that, because they're wicked people, I'm going to punish them too, right? I'm going to take them down. And
Yeah.
Babylon, I'm going to raise them up to punish Judah, right? Whatever. And then, because they're wicked people, I'm going to take them down, right? Just because I'm using them doesn't mean I
Yeah. I mean,
approve of their brutality, for sure.
we may get to it, but you think about the story of like Nebuchadnezzar, for
Yeah,
instance,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like Nebuchadnezzar when I read about him in the Bible,
Yeah, right.
right?
Yeah.
And he's got some good qualities about him, and yet he also gets punished for 7 years because of his pride.
Yeah.
And he ultimately was still the king of a wicked nation,
Yeah, and if you read about him
right?
from history, right, you go, this guy's a
Yes.
brutal man, right?
Yeah.
And in the Bible, he gets his comeuppance, if you will, right? Not even just in the 7 years, but Babylon itself will fall,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole vision at the beginning, right? You're this,
Yes.
but then after that,
Chapter
you're
2.
gone, right? You're
Yeah.
gone, and there's another kingdom that's going to come up after you. And so, yeah, we see that happen. I mean, Pharaoh is the same sort of way, right? Well, look, he's doing the things that God is using him to show his power, right? So isn't Pharaoh? And there's that whole conversation, right? Hey, who can resist God's will? Look, no, he's just a vessel of dishonor that God's going to use, right? And so Samson falls sort of in that camp in that same way, right? He does these things, he's doing these deliverances, but that doesn't mean that God is happy that he eats from the dead carcass, right?
Right.
In violation of the vow, right? It doesn't mean I don't believe that God is happy that the way that he makes this wager in the first place, that he
Right.
loses, and then his solution is I'm going to go kill 30 people to pay off my bet, right? I don't think we should take that message as like, well, if I make a bet and I lose, I could just mug somebody for the
as
money,
justification,
right? And do
yeah.
the same thing. Samson did it, right? He's a great hero
Exactly.
in the Bible. And so, yeah, I think that's an important thing for us to take from this story. And I think another thing is, and we'll keep seeing it, right, that, even though God has chosen this guy from before his birth, this guy gives in to the lust of the eyes over and over and over again, right? And the lust of the flesh, right? I mean, we're seeing that even, he sees this woman and he wants her, right? We're going to see 2 more times his failings with women in the same way. He goes to look at the dead animal, right? Why? I assume the only thing you see is like, I want to take pride in my work. Let me see how that thing, right? I'm just prideful. I want to go check out this animal I killed. And then what does he see? Oh, I see honey and it's good to eat. And so I'm just going to take it, right? Like he just constantly is giving into his own fleshly desires.
Yep.
In this narrative. And so, we need to be on guard for that as well. Certainly is.
Yeah. So it's just kind of just a cautionary warning that, not all of the examples were given to us so that we are supposed to like follow in their footsteps,
Right. Sure.
but extract the moral lessons and the historical implications. This is partly here also for us to learn the history of God's people and the
this is how they
remnant
got
that
to
would
where.
be preserved, right? And so yeah, that would be my biggest takeaway, I think.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Cool. All right, everybody, we'll have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time as we hopefully finish up the story of Samson. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin and I had previously been talking about going back to the to the New Testament and maybe picking up a book like Ephesians next, but my gracious wife said, well, you can't leave the story unfinished. So maybe we just continue on with 1st and 2nd Samuel.
Oh, yeah, sure, maybe. Yeah. And we got to
Right.
push through the rest of Judges, right? There's 4 or 5 more
Yeah.
chapters we got to get through there.
Of course, yeah,
with
we got to
the
finish Judges, but after,
then, yeah. After that, we're going to go to
technically Samuel is
He's the
one of
last
the
judge.
judges.
Yeah.
And so it would be appropriate for us to finish out the story and to see the next chapter or era begin
Sure.
for God's people as we transition out from the city-state judge type characters into the kings.
Yep.
So that might be the best approach to go. So if you have anything to say about that or commentary, we'd love to hear it. As always, like and subscribe and do all the algorithm thingies. Until next time, we'll see you then. God bless.